Attorney General William Barr is casting doubt on large-scale mail-in voting. In an interview with NPR last week, Barr said there are, quote, so many occasions for fraud there that cannot be policed when the system is expanded, adding he doesn't believe an election done mostly by mail will be secure. However, during congressional testimony earlier this week, Barr said he has no reason to believe the 2020 election will be rigged. For more, let's bring in David Becker. He's the executive director of the Center for Election Innovation and Research. He's also a former senior trial attorney for the voting section of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. David, thanks very much for joining us. First, is there any evidence to support Barr's claims that voting by mail will lead to large-scale election fraud? And if so, how likely are we to see fraud in November's election?
Well, there's not only no evidence to support Attorney General Barr's claim. There's a lot of evidence to demonstrate that mail voting, just like in-person voting, is very secure from fraud. Fraud occurs extremely rarely, and it's usually detected and prosecuted. And mail voting is a really good way. If a voter wants to commit fraud while mail voting, it's almost guaranteed that individual is going to be caught, as we've seen it happen in small-scale incidents in places like North Carolina. So the Attorney General is very mistaken about this. Mail voting is secure.
Barr also referenced stimulus checks that had been, quote, misdirected. He believes something similar can happen with mail-in ballots. David, is the process for voting similar to that or different?
It's very different. A mail ballot is printed on a particular kind of paper with particular ink, with special coding on the envelopes, and it gets directed to particular voters, in most states, voters who have specifically requested a ballot for that election. If anyone else tried to vote that ballot, there are places on the outside of the ballot where voters have to put personal information that only they would have and sign the ballot, and that signature will be checked against the signature on file. All of those protections and many others are in place to prevent someone else from voting a ballot that was sent to someone. Probably the bigger risks with mail voting are someone might not receive their ballot, there could be an overwhelming volume of ballots and very difficult to process, or a voter might not be familiar with how to fill out a mail ballot and might make a mistake that could make it difficult for their ballot to be counted. But the chance of a fraudulent vote being cast by mail is very, very remote. It will happen extremely rarely, and the chances are it'll be caught and prosecuted.
And you touched on this a moment ago, but what security measures are in place to prevent tampering with mail-in ballots?
So every state has different procedures, but there are multiple layers of security with mail ballots overall. From the request for a mail ballot that is verified against the voter file, from the checks on the outside of the envelopes to make sure that the person who voting it is the person who was supposed to vote that ballot, to coding on the outside of the envelope that corresponds to the voter's file, to the signature match on the ballot itself to make sure it matches. There are many, many layers of security. Voters can be confident that election officials are making sure that the ballots are being cast as they are intended, and fraud is going to be caught in the very rare instances when it happens.
Well, Attorney General Barr also said he believes foreign countries could exploit mail-in voting to undermine confidence in our election results. In your opinion, is that a valid concern?
Well, it's not just in my opinion, it's a baffling claim. He's made it before, and it demonstrates a remarkable lack of understanding of the process, particularly for an attorney general that has dozens of my former colleagues working in the voting section of the Justice Department that he can ask about this. As I've said, ballots in each state are printed differently on different types of paper with different special inks, with different coding on the outside of the ballots. If a foreign government was willing to try to flood the system with fake ballots, it's guaranteed that would be detected, and detected early. It would be detected also when someone who was supposed to receive a ballot tried to vote and found out some other ballot had been returned. There are just so many ways this would be detected. If the Attorney General thinks that the risk of a foreign government coming in and trying such a clumsy and blatant attack on our elections is real, then we should probably be doing more to deter those foreign adversaries from trying to interfere in our elections.
And how do you think these claims being made actually affect the election, sort of people's understanding of the election results? What is the environment this creates?
Well, that's the real concern. Our adversaries like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, they're all autocracies, and they win when citizens of a democracy lose confidence in that democracy and in the elections which elect their leaders. And so in most cases, the intelligence community agrees the real goal is not to change the outcome of the elections, but to get us all to doubt the outcomes of those elections and to get more divided as election results don't match with our expectations, and to allow for claims of rigging and that kind of thing. So it's really important, as we see those efforts by our adversaries weaken our confidence on our elections, that we support the election officials of both parties and the many others who are working to ensure that the election is going to have integrity. I'm very confident that this election is going to be secure and have integrity, and that we're going to know the outcome, although it might take some time after Election Day to get to that point.
All right, David Becker. David, thank you very much for sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you.